Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another scene of Living World of Darkness, the Mage venue. And we start the scene off in the common room of the chantry, where Ava's literally like putting things together, like making sure there's coffee, there's tea, there's cups, there's cookies, there's even some savory snacks like I don't know, cheese crackers or something like that. And it's just generally waiting for the rest because she and Ava and they kind of like agreed that there should be a meeting. Other mages have also concurred, so she's gonna make sure everything is ready for a big meeting.
Nausicaa turns up exactly on time, and just kind of comes out of her room, walks over to the table, looks at the crackers and the cheese and the various other nibbles, turns around and walks downstairs and comes back 5 minutes later with a big stack of food. More to her liking. And just sits down and waits for everyone else.
James will eventually make his way into the common room. And there are rings under his eyes, and his fingers are bandaged.
Caleb comes in, sits. He has a tea on his hand. Cup of tea. And he is ready for the meeting.
Morning.
What have you done, James?
I'm working on something.
Okay.
Spell.
Do you need help? Oh, okay.
No. I need coffee, though.
Ava will pour him a cup of coffee. There you go.
I'll take it in bandaged fingers.
You need a straw.
No, it's cool.
Okay. And she'll sit down next to Nausicaa. So, is anyone else even in? I mean, we did say it was right now, right?
We did.
We are all here at the correct time. Maybe the others are busy.
Perhaps. So, Nausicaa, do you want to start? Because someone has to.
Okay. So, the other day, Caleb made a very, I believe, astute observation that we could be more organized. That we could take more efforts to increase our security. And work together better. To this end, we have thought of creating a system where certain of us take on certain responsibilities on behalf of the group as a whole. And that decisions are made in a collective manner among us.
Like some sort of council?
That's good. Just shrugs. In early Greece, they had semi-democratic governments. They served them fairly well. I believe if we make decisions for the greater good, part of a greater effort, and those of us with certain expertise can use those expertise for the benefit of others. And those of us with certain weaknesses can have those weaknesses compensated for by the rest of the group. We will be safer and more profitable, and better able to avoid detection and help with becoming more powerful. And she'll kind of sit back.
Okay. So, in what way? How is this being executed?
That is what we are here to discuss.
Yeah. We don't really have anything planned, but we were thinking about like putting someone sort of in charge of, making sure that we have alternative locations to flee to, have enough resources, but also someone should probably take care of our funds. She looks over at Nausicaa. And someone should take care of new people, things like that. Make sure everybody knows where to go to, what's going on, like information distributors.
Also, we should write rules for this chantry and get it approved by Lee. Rules. This chantry doesn't have rules. Yeah.
Like what?
Don't steal from others.
That's just common human decency.
Some don't have that.
Who's stolen from someone?
Nobody. That doesn't mean someone we find will not steal. We're looking for mages. You're not. People like when we come here, we didn't know nothing about each other. I could have been a really weird person. I think there should be rules. If they're written, nobody can say I didn't see that. Any rule regarding not stealing anything.
He's right. It's not like we can go to the law or the authorities easily.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with you in some sense, but I think what James says does make sense. Human decency in itself, we could simply make that a rule.
Ill-defined.
But we are not here in a prison or something like that. We do not need hundreds of rules, because that'll only will make people feel locked up. I agree that there should be some sort of rules, but I feel that
they would
do
have
not need a lot.
They would have to be things we all agree on.
I agree.
For example, rules about security of this place. If one of us is captured, then likely the rest of us, if we're lucky, will have to leave. If we are unlucky, then, well, then one of those things may just kick down the restaurant door and it'll be too late.
The second point that we had was finding guns for defending the chantry and having escape routes, or the only way for them to find this place isn't one of us kept being captured. They can just see us and follow us here. That's why we'll try to create disguises for people, for them to use in the around the chantry, which will be hidden.
Maybe we're going into detail a little bit too soon here. The thing, what we want to do is to create a structure in which we all can work more efficiently together. I think that is something that needs to happen. In regard, we need someone to take care of our defenses, which you might be able to do, Caleb.
He nods.
But we also need, yeah, like
The words on this place are pretty significant.
they are. That does not mean that they cannot be compromised.
No, I didn't say that.
I know.
We could get a mundane security system.
There is one already. Like out of character. Nels could put one in.
I didn't know.
There's cameras and all sorts.
As for guns,
We'll go to a gun show. That was the plan.
okay. So you want the guns to have numbers that are traceable.
That's the problem.
Not to sound like this is some spy movie, but that seems like a bad idea. Maybe we should think about maybe getting guns in a less pedestrian way.
I can try to find people who would sell us those guns, but I think we can find, maybe shotguns if you're lucky. The gun show presents a lot of guns. Buying guns in a legal way presents less guns that can't be tracked, so it should be, in my opinion, below the mini on what we will do.
We're discussing specifics right now, rather than broader organization.
True.
So what? Are we going to have... What do you want to discuss? Do you want to discuss basic organization?
Yes.
Okay.
We need to assign, in a way, responsibilities to our group so that we can work better together as a group. We also know who we best can go to in what situation.
I believe that the first thing we should do is work out the procedure for making these decisions. Having some kind of group forum where everyone has an opportunity to discuss and talk, and then a collective decision is made through a ballot. Seems like the most simple and obvious way.
Wouldn't know how else to do it. I mean, we're all the same. There's no one. We don't have like a Mage King or something. So I think the democratic way is best.
One thing we should also remember, if we are to join traditions, and I'm still of the opinion that it will be the best for us to do, there are certain things called the protocols. The traditions follow them largely. I believe we should also follow them.
What
That's
are
not
these
the worst idea.
protocols?
There is a book in the library. But Nausicaa does know them off by heart. They are as follows. Respect those of greater knowledge. A tutor's debt must be repaid. A mage's word is his honor. Break not a sworn vow. The will of an oracle must be obeyed. I believe in this context, an oracle is a special kind of extremely powerful mage. Not your cabal or chantry. In this case, the chantry would be the mages that live in this place, and a cabal is a group of mages who work together. Conspire not with the enemies of ascension. In this context, it means obviously the Technocratic Union and other groups that I have not researched sufficiently, but I believe to be evil mages. Protect the sleepers. They are ignorant of what they do. This means the general human populace. And be subtle in your arts, lest the sleepers know what you are. This is what Tasha and Boris have said to us, that we should not expose our powers to normal people. And she looks around for general kind of feelings on the matter.
I already followed these rules.
Seems pretty straightforward.
I believe so.
So, with the four of us here, I think it's safe to say that as a group, we decide to pick up these protocols.
I believe if we are to continue our advancement into the societies of the traditions, then we should become used to these.
Be right back.
Kill not.
So, and Nausicaa will actually get out a pen and paper. And she basically just writes Happy Dragon Cabal. And then writes number 1, obey the protocols of the traditions. And then writes number 2 and looks to the others. Any suggestions?
For what? Sorry.
The rules that we will follow.
I mean, you have the protocols. They're pretty straightforward.
But they are not specific. I believe we should have one about security. About how if we are to go out into the city, you must take adequate precautions. Not to reveal yourselves. And that others in the group, if you do not know how to adequately conceal yourself, how others in the group must assist you.
I like that one.
Nausicaa Jen just writes down, it's all kind of with pencil and it doesn't look, yeah. She'll just write down, preserve the security of the chantry and take adequate precautions when out in the city. To define what adequate precautions are, I believe we should appoint somebody who is in charge of Chantry security, voted for by the rest of us, who will assist and decide what is adequate and what is not, and what behavior is considered appropriate.
The problem with that would be that if people doesn't respect that position is just there for no reason.
If they don't respect that position, they aren't respecting the protocols and aren't entitled to the protections of the Chantry.
That is not our decision, that is Lee's decision. Lee is the leader of the Chantry.
Lee is the leader of the Chantry. But he is not has not shown no interest in being the leader of any group of us magelings.
I think it's safe to say that Lee, Boris, Tasha, as much as they are providing us with guidance, lessons, and help, we cannot view them in the same light as we can view ourselves. They have their own, well, rules, and they leave us to ours. If we want to protect ourselves, I do not feel that we should be dependent on them. In which I do not mean, of course, that we cannot ask them for assistance.
No Seekonos. They have made their way and found their place. We are doing so. But I do believe that if another comes to us who puts us at risk, refuses our collective decisions, or is in some way unhelpful to us as a group, then we could exclude them.
Seems reasonable to me.
I know
That's
it
cold,
seems harsh, but we are quite lucky that Nausicaa kind of like doesn't like make eye contact with anybody. Most of the people here so far are tolerable.
I don't agree entirely with this. I understand where the idea is coming from, but I feel that, I mean, all of us, we've had time to adjust to this life. We've had time to get used to this, to get used to what this is. And we came from circumstances that left us little choice. But even then, some of us protested. And even then, some of us decided to try and make their own luck and make their own way. I feel that it should be up to us to at least put in a great deal of effort before so harshly excluding someone.
Nausicaa looks at Ava and then begins writing down, and she'll write, if a member of the Cabal repeatedly flaunts the rules and repeatedly and unrepentantly puts others at risk, then a collective decision may be made to exclude them. You're right. When we first came to this, we did not understand. There should be leeway for those who have not learned the issue yet.
Probationary period of 1 month and 3 strikes.
Nausicaa looks at the rest.
Sure. Yeah.
I believe we should also Among ourselves, we have had disputes. I believe that personal disputes between each other, as long as they do not lead to endangering or violence, can be maintained among each other. But that, if one of the parties wishes, a collective decision can be made over an issue. For example, a question of possession or... And Nosuke just shrugs. I'm proposing some form of mediation, if two of us come to conflict.
Conflict, I don't know, have it be some sort of triumvirate triad that that'll be picked to basically hear both sides and vote on whichever side they believe is in the right.
I believe the most amenable would be if everybody hears the issues, there is an effort made to mediate and to reconcile, and then if it is truly unable to, then yes, a collective decision will be made as to how to proceed.
As long as we all make an effort to get along first. Sure. That does mean that we need a mediator.
Well, Ava, although I don't believe we should be appointing people without full collective decisions, you have proven in the past to have significant capacity for understanding and mediation.
Well, I was actually more thinking on a case-to-case basis, because ultimately the one who is mediating might be, like, if you would appoint me as a mediator and I would get into a conflict with James, for example, or with anyone else, then you would need someone else. So I'd say the two offended parties would get together and choose the one of us that they think is most neutral to the entire conflict. And if that is me, then I would happily take on that charge. But
This makes sense. Can we think of any other rules? I agree with James in essence. We should not be overly complicated. How about one about people taking on positions within the group to take some overall responsibility for some aspect of what we do?
What positions do we need? First, let's outline them.
I believe of paramount importance is somebody to coordinate security. Make sure we have plans and options.
Okay. Now, is that person the same person?
I think so.
Okay, so security and protocol.
To make sure we're all obeying this rule. She kind of taps on the rule about not yeah, like not like security basically.
Can someone explain me what happened? I was AFK.
If you look in your Google Docs, I have basically written out the conclusion of the discussion we've been having so far. Please don't delete it.
I won't.
So security and protocol. Essentially, the what? Sheriff?
Sheriff.
That's a strange word.
Such a strange word. Basically,
like
we're
a
looking
wormfell?
for police. Maybe Warner. But so we're looking for someone who will keep the rules and enforce those rules.
I do not mean enforce the rules in general. That should be a collective decision. I mean specifically make sure that we are not, that they are putting significant effort into security
head of
of this place. Head of security, correct.
Head of security sounds so sterile, though.
It does. Perhaps we could find another term.
Bodyguard.
Sounds very Whitney Houston.
Guardian.
I have been preparing some actions for securing this place, and I would love to be head of the security, guardian, Vernfo sheriff.
I think Guardian works.
My idea is to have security routes, guns given to this place, but I will like after if I'm chosen, I will ask the members of this chantry to choose Ove.
How about shield? The Guardian.
I like that.
Shield.
How about Aegis?
So. Okay.
Such a Greek word. I like it.
Aegis works.
I have no idea how you write that. It's out of character, by the way.
AEGIS.
Okay. Then I did have it correct. Thank you.
I'm only saying that because it's a term that I believe mages use for like things like that.
Yeah. So we have an Aegis, and will be Caleb.
I think we should ask to Julie, Elijah, Kate about the Aegis before we decide.
I agree.
I mean, yes, I agree with that. Of course, we should have everybody should have the opportunity to have their say. But I still think that we as a group can at least make our proposal, and they can decide, no, we do not want that, and then we'll have to go into further negotiations. But I think for now to say that we choose someone, then propose that to them, and if they don't agree with it in 2 weeks, we can just make sure that it's, make sure that it keeps going. Obviously, it's difficult to get all of us together. So I would say make a proposal now and let them see it, and they can agree or not agree with it.
What other position do we need?
Head of funds.
Funds.
Money.
I got that.
The Aegis will say what we need, and the master of the funds, as he air quotes, will find the money. And it should be our responsibility to aid the fund person to find funds.
Okay. Nausicaa, that seems your position.
If people would be happy, I would be happy to help in this way. I believe that in addition to this, I can lend some legitimacy to these fundings, as we have discussed before about people working at Iliad Capital Consultancy. Additionally, I have these, and Nausicaa actually takes out a bag, and she will hand out like brand new phones to all the people.
Okay.
If we only use these phones among each other, then that should help us with security issues.
All right. So, what do we call your position?
I believe that the group as a whole should discuss this before nominating specifics.
And speaking of
We just came up with the Aegis.
there's a nerd that enter with a cup of tea.
Hello, Elijah. It's nice to see you again. I'm hoping your wounds are getting healed.
Well, it's better as he moves his arm.
Getting shot isn't fun, is it?
It is actually quite painful.
Yep.
Which makes me think that I'm probably gonna do some research about making my my clothes less susceptible to making me get shot. That could be a very
Getting shot
interesting endeavor
less
for the
than
future.
Kind of agree. As he rubs just below his solar plexus. But yeah, we just came up with Aegis, so what do we call the funds person? The coin?
Finance.
Again, sterile.
Man, we don't have to be fucking cool. We just have to do the team work together, you know?
Yeah, but it's nice. I don't know.
Um,
Adds a little bit of
financial
potency.
supervisor. It's nice.
Ugh.
Mm.
I feel like you just disinfected my ears.
The dragon. You should call it the dragon. They hoard money like gold.
I'm not a literacy major, but I do believe that dragon denomination has a tendency to be not a very good term to employ when speaking of people who are greedy.
I wouldn't see it as such, but I just thought it had a nice ring to it. Of our own very powerful dragon.
So, what? I mean, I heard the project that. I mean, it's infancy. So you're going through basically the whole finance thing.
No, we're creating a set of protocols and rules that we believe that we should attempt to follow for the collective greater good. For example, the tradition mages follow a set of rules called the protocols. I believe we should begin adhering to these as best we can to prepare ourselves. Aside from this, we have decided that working together, we should work together as a group, and decisions can be made via majority votes. That's securing the chantry and taking adequate precautions while in the city should become the duty of every person who wants to reside here. That internal conflicts between us should be mediated by other neutral parties. And that if somebody is repeatedly putting us at risk or proving a significant barrier to us working together conducively, then they can be excluded from the group.
That seems pretty reasonable and logical.
New members to the Chantry will receive, I believe we settled on a 1-month probationary period, and existing members a 3-strike. This will allow new members to assimilate to the protocols, and it will give us a benchmark of existing transgressions. As for the position of who will be controlling funds, what about Argent? It's a shortening of the Latin for banker.
And also get Cox ahead. I think that sounds appropriate. And in fitting with the theme.
All right.
What other positions do we need?
Education for the newcomers.
Yes, Ava suggested that. Although I believe all of us should make efforts to educate and teach, having someone in charge of coordinating that.
Basically, in charge of the newbies.
Yes. Leading them around, making sure that they get to know the Chantry, that they are up to speed with what is going on, where they have to watch out for, things like that. And just, yeah, introducing them to our way of living, our society, our group.
Okay.
If we are continuing with Latin, they could be magister. It means teacher.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I guess considering my position and knowledge, I could do the medical procedures.
Seeing as how it is unlikely that we will be able to go to hospitals without risking the security, that would sound like a needed position. Although, Elijah, we are not voting for positions now, as we are not all present. But yes.
We are making propositions already, Nausicaa.
And
Because it's
he is the
impossible to
most
get
obvious
everyone
fit.
together. I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Gunshot wounds have to be reported legally. If there was some way that we could avoid that.
Yes.
I'll have to propose someone for the Magister function.
Also, Cook's ahead.
James looks over at Eva.
Eva.
What? Sorry?
Basically, everyone's looking at you to see what you say.
Oh! Oh, okay, sorry. I was like, blah, blah. I was looking at a Google Doc.
You're the easiest to talk to here.
She blushes
You're
a bit.
also the youngest.
Sure, yeah, I can try.
Yes, you're very easy to talk to. I can attest.
All right, I'll give it a try. Sure.
Okay.
Nausicaa nods. I agree. You are very understanding.
She gets
What other
even
position?
more red.
I
What
think
other
we should.
positions do we need?
I think we should have somebody who. Let me start over. We have found ourselves in very unfortunate positions, potentially life-risking. I believe we should have somebody that is going to put some thought and effort into how we should operate when we have to leave the Chantry. For example, the heist in the museum. Somebody in charge of planning, organizing, and coordinating it. Although, obviously, each situation will have its own merits. If there is somebody overall making sure that we work together, then I think that would be useful. Also researching magical procedures that we can use out there. I have found that most of my magic takes a long time to work. I have to be at my computer to use much of it. And that significant research and time must be made, even to make smaller effects. If we would have somebody who would perhaps research or look into effects that could be useful when we are out in the field, as it were. And she'll look to see what people think.
I think that is also one of those cases where we also do it together. We come up with ideas together as a group, not just one of us, but to have someone organize those ideas. And I think that is something that could be fruitful. Yes.
I agree. For all of these positions, it is a group burden.
Of course.
But there will be somebody who will direct and shoulder the majority as appropriate.
Okay. Caleb nods again.
Back.
Nausicaa just proposed the idea of essentially like the away officer, the person that kind of, organizes, stuff like that.
I think the officer for planning and organizing field trips will change to each stuff that we have. So for the thing that we want to stole from the museum, I think Nausicaa would be good as a organizer. If we wanted to steal something from Lady's apartment, I would put Julie or myself in forward.
I think there's a difference between someone organizing what we can do in these scenarios and what our inventory is, between a teacher on a field trip, like the one who's in the end in charge of, or well, as far as we need someone in charge of a singular event, doesn't have to be the one who keeps track of like the magical effects that can be useful in situations.
I agree. Ultimately, the person who is making this their duty to put significant time and effort into it does not mean they are the only person involved. And obviously each scenario will be specific to each other.
Exactly. Her eyes kind of glance over at James.
Nausicaa's not glancing. Nausicaa's just looking at James.
He just sort of like points at himself with a bandaged finger. Okay. Let's call this
Gladius.
I was thinking of Lecter, but that works better.
I also think we might need a bookkeeper.
Oh? In what manner?
I'm not sure, but we're gonna face lists, but also books with useful information, things with the library. Maybe someone who is, I don't know. Like I said, maybe someone who is in charge of information distributing, making sure that everyone has everything and is up to date. But then again, that's also something that could be divided amongst those who already have responsibilities, because in the end it would all fit there.
No, I think it works. Someone essentially in charge of making sure everybody is aware of a certain situation.
And if we need an issue researched,
And if we need an issue,
they can take point.
Yep.
Nausicaa actually looks like she really wants to do this one. Have we thought about the idea of people possessing multiple of these positions, taking multiple responsibilities?
I think in the end it depends on how many positions there are, and I think ultimately we need to look at who's the best choice for a matter. If someone thinks they can take on 2 responsibilities, why not?
It's up to them. This isn't stuff that's written in stone.
No. Why do you want it?
I have several. Well, from my time at Sterling and Cooper, I have had access to significant information resources, and I have spent quite a lot of time in the library.
I think you would be suited for the job. I mean, there's also Julie and Kate. But
Kate? Is that the
girl.
new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I think we should not make these decisions, although I agree. Formulating proposals is good. I do not think we should make these decisions without 100% input.
Well, if you would be the master of info, it would be up to you to make sure that they get the information.
We can call that position the lector.
Yes.
Oscar shrugs. Appropriate.
Anyone else who wants this or who thinks someone else might be a better choice?
No?
Noska just looks at Elijah. Elijah has a research background as well. We could perhaps share the burden.
That's up to Elijah. As he looks over at Elijah.
Who BRB'd, so.
Oh, right, sorry, I didn't see that.
Is there any other position? I think this is a good start.
I agree.
Something we can work with.
I think as time goes on, it will become evident that we may need more people to take up other responsibilities.
Seems reasonable.
We can then allocate them.
Well,
on to more specific matters. I believe we should have weekly meetings. Although most of us talk regularly, I believe we should have weekly meetings to update each other and discuss as a group the issues we are facing. Although this need not be a rule, I think we can all agree.
I think it works.
Practicality.
They don't have to be compulsory. A suggestion, an open forum.
Quite. On this topic, I will put myself forward to say that I have some news. I have purchased, or I am in the process of purchasing several properties around New York. Caleb suggested that it would be useful for us to have safe houses if we are in a different part of the city and we need somewhere to lay low, to hide. I suggest we stock these places with resources we may need, firstly to communicate with each other, defend ourselves, and enact certain effects if we wish.
I agree.
Clothes, guns.
More guns,
Wards.
foods. I don't think any of us can hoard yet.
Ultimately, the maintenance of these areas, I believe, should be the purview and responsibility of whoever we nominate as Aegis.
All right.
Also, and she hands a phone to Elijah as he's the only one she's not giving it to.
Oh.
These phones are... I believe we should just use them among each other and maybe other members of the Chantry. That way, in our normal day-to-day conversations and actions, if we lose our phone, we will not have this. And if we are contacted by, say, an agent of the Technocratic Union, I know for a fact that having access to somebody's telephone can give you having access to somebody's telephone number can give you access to the device. If we do not use this phone with people we do not necessarily trust, then we should be more secure in that aspect.
And,
I like it.
and if the only people who are using these phones are a member of a Chantry, then it means that at the moment where the phone is used, then it has to be a member of a Chantry calling.
Also true.
What if someone gets captured with the phone? Someone out there doing something like when we got Kate, and
if somebody's captured, them having telephone numbers of us is the least of our worries. If somebody is captured, I believe we should make all efforts to attempt to rescue them.
I mean, I agree, of course.
Is there a way we could maybe create a kill switch in the phones?
Or even
ultimately, we have all been at the Zeta Clinic. If they have us, the information held on our phones will be the least of our concerns. I know they will break me. They broke me before. I believe they could do it again.
I'd rather die than go back there.
I also agree.
something to look into for sure, but I was still thinking maybe we can, I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like something that to do, build in a signal that when a phone like this is encountering like magic being imposed on it, that it would send out a signal to the rest of us to make sure that we at least know whose phone has been tampered with.
We could.
You can also consider the possibility that if someone gets captured, they might send someone to look like one of us with this phone to take
This is true.
place. To rule us out.
I believe that we may be able to. Phones have passcodes. I believe that we may be able to create fake ones that, when told, if they ask us for the passcode to enter it, we tell them the fake one. It works, but when it is typed in, it deletes information, sends a message to the others to let them know where they are. I don't know how we would do that. I can code mathematical formula, but my experience with telephones is non-existent.
Perhaps we can ask Tasha to help. I don't know who. I think none of us really are very well versed in technology in combination with magic.
I
No,
agree.
I'm not. If you want to, I can ask. Unless someone else has a better connection.
No? Go for it.
No.
Right.
I believe one of the other rules we should put in is that we should all help each other learn and grow. Especially regarding studying the magical spheres.
That's what the
but we should not withhold
that's what the open forum. can be. We can
I
use
agree.
the open thing.
But more directly. If we join traditions, then likely we will be apprentices to masters. Obviously, in this case, we will not be able to share secrets of the traditions. But I believe among each other, we should help each other to work and grow, not work against each other, and not withhold pertinent information. Yeah, I gotta go as well.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna start getting ready for work too.
Then, I mean, I think for now, this is all good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try and see next week in our second weekly meeting.
We have to really sit down and think of a time that we're going to pull this heist off.
You're quite correct.
I agree.
The exhibition closes soon.
And I guess we need to think of a plan and see how we can work everyone's ability through it.
I've made some preparations, but as you say, we can talk about it at a later date.
I have a few ideas as well, but I need to work them out. I don't see how I can do what I want to do yet, so. But yeah. Let's get together soon on that.
All right.
Well, everybody enjoy your day, and thanks for all for coming. I think with that we can end the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then thank you players for playing, thank you watchers for watching, and see you again in Living World of Darkness. Mage from the Ashes or something like that.